So I will now hand over to Jasmine, and the room is yours.
Thanks, Des. All right, I'm just going to share my screen. Can everyone see that? Okay, awesome. All right, so hi everyone. We are part of the VET Early Childhood team at CQUniversity, and there will be 3 presenters today. So Tracey's in Cairns, Loretta's in Rockhampton, and myself in Bundy. We will be discussing how we remain connected with students and as a team during COVID, and how we change practice to stay connected in the face of adversity. So first up, over to you, Tracey.
Hi everyone. I'll just share my screen, Jasmine, because I think it will just stay on you, if that makes sense. If you know what I mean, if you could stop sharing yours and I'll share mine, otherwise it'll just stay on yours. Thanks, lovely. Okay, can everyone see that okay? Okay, good afternoon everyone. The Early Childhood Education and Care team within the VET sector has not been immune to the effects and changes caused by the worldwide pandemic that we all know as COVID-19. Today I'm going to be spending a few minutes talking about the overall changes that we as a team have faced during COVID-19. We have had to work together to overcome numerous challenges, as so many of us have. One of our challenges has been implementing strategies to support our on-campus students without being able to conduct teaching within the usual classroom environment. This has meant that our on-campus cluster delivery model had to be altered to accommodate for that online learning transition. Members of our team had to collaborate on strategies that could be created and used to support these students by still producing a quality delivery of the course. But instead of being in the classroom, this obviously had to be online. Not all students have the technology to study from home, so we had many challenges in that retrospect. Many of our students rely on studying within our campuses or our hubs. Some like to study at a local library or specific study centres within their local community. COVID-19 restrictions meant that students were unable to frequent those establishments. Some students do not have internet access at home, so that was a massive challenge for us to support those students. And some simply didn't have suitable equipment to do their course, for example, a computer, a laptop, or fast internet facilities. Another challenge that we have had that some students who are enrolled in the on-campus delivery method don't quite feel confident in their computer abilities and skill sets independently enough to study online. A majority of students who are English second language also attend our on-campus classes, and we needed to ensure that those students also felt supported and were being provided with the tools to progress via an online platform. The early childhood education and care courses that we do offer, they require vocational or employed placement hours. This has been our biggest challenge that the team has faced cohesively. Our students range from seniors in high school. We have students that are staff that are employed within the industry. We have students that are working in other workforces completely separate to early childhood. We have people wanting a career change. We have students who are busy mums, busy dads, who have now had to accommodate having their own children off school and at home, still needing to commit to those study requirements. Due to the industry services such as long daycare services, kindergartens, family daycares, and outside of school hours care services having firm restrictions in place due to COVID, it has meant that a vast majority of our students have been unable to complete those vocational placement hours. Obviously, having those students unable to complete their practical requirements and only do their theory has meant that we have had to work on bulk extensions and students being unable to complete their clusters within their enrolment period. It hasn't been their own fault. This brings me to our next challenge, the one of specific individual unit assessment skills and conditions. poring over each individual unit of assessment to verify which skills had to be demonstrated in a regulated education and care service, and whether or not there were any strategies in which we could implement to enable students to complete units of competencies. We then had the predicament of determining which assessment conditions from each individual units within our clustered program, which ones allowed our students to complete practical skills in an alternate simulated environment. Even once we determined the very small number of units that could potentially be completed in an alternate work environment space, we then had the challenge of whether it was even possible to individualise those specific units. Could we remove them from the cluster in which they were grouped? This then meant that as a team, we had to determine the pros and cons of it. Would it benefit enough students to make it worth looking further into? Would it affect the way in which delivery of our clustered program itself? Would we then have to restructure our entire delivery method? Would the changes themselves affect students even further than COVID-19 already had? What sort of workplace would be considered to satisfy the simulated environment specification? And would that workplace even allow students due to the potential COVID restrictions? Other challenges that we faced has been maintaining student engagement and support. We've all had to merge to an online platform. That has meant less face-to-face contact. This has meant that we have had to collaboratively ensure that we are maintaining frequent contact with our students, checking in on them and making sure that they don't feel so isolated. The transition to working from home has also been a challenge for us. It's taken us away from our frequent contact with work colleagues and the work environment itself. It has had many pros and cons, but the transition into a home office environment has tested many, and we were all challenged with different variables having to adapt to a completely different environment. These challenges including ensuring our space was equipped with the technology and resources to work successfully from home, and manage with disruptions that we may not have had within the office before, including, and I'm sure that many of you can relate, children that were then at home, completing at home learning due to school closures. The transition itself meant that we had to support each other and really work together to ensure that we all had a work-life balance that was healthy. Our team in the early childhood unit is very close-knit. Therefore, we were challenged with the aspect of potentially feeling disconnected from each other whilst working from our home offices. Although we are based not only in Rockhampton, but Cairns and Bundaberg as well, we've always ensured to keep our team feeling connected. 2020 has been a year that no one could have anticipated, and although we have all been faced with challenges, it has provided with us as a team with the opportunity to work collaboratively and strategise ways in which we could adapt our service and support our students and each other in various ways. I'm going to hand over to Jasmine now, who's going to elaborate further on the strategies that we use to overcome our challenges. Thank you.
Thanks, Trace. Okay, I'm just going to reshare my screen. Okie dokes, hope everyone can see that. All right, so after our team faced those challenges that COVID-19 had presented, we collaborated to problem solve and implement strategies to overcome some of those obstacles. So our main concerns were to ensure that students remained engaged with their study while unable to attend their vocational placement settings and were able to complete their assessment tasks and units of competency. We were very aware of the impact COVID-19 had on students, as Tracey mentioned, and our team were feeling some of those pressures as well. So one of the first strategies implemented was to review all the units delivered within the early childhood qualifications, just to identify the units that could be completed without the students attending vocational placement. Within the Certificate 3 in Early Childhood Education and Care and the Diploma of Early Childhood Education and Care training packages, there are many core units that have strict assessment conditions around vocational placement and students completing that performance evidence skills in a regulated education and care service. So most of these core units also have a condition that a simulated environment is not able to be used to complete those performance evidence skills. So the qualifications that we deliver are made up of clustered units. So this is often used in VET qualifications. So clustering is a process of grouping competencies into combinations which have meaning and purpose related to work functions and needs in an industry. This allows similar units to be clustered together for delivery, so students are only having to complete performance evidence and skills just across that one cluster. So we identified that 2 units, CHC Div 001 and CHC Div 002, that lie within Cluster 6, Culture and Community, in both of the qualifications, have an assessment condition where skills can be completed in a workplace or a simulated environment. So identifying these assessment conditions gave the team the flexibility to modify the assessment tasks into case studies and reflection tasks so students could complete 2 of the 3 units within Cluster 6 and then be graded competent without having to attend vocational placement. The students were then graded competent, awaiting vocational placement tasks for that one remaining unit, CHC ECE 001 in Cluster 6. Having identified that these changes could be made to Cluster 6, the team then reviewed the on-campus cluster delivery plan for 2020. Online students are able to enrol into any cluster with a general pattern of enrolment but have more flexibility to complete out of order. Where on-campus students follow the set cluster delivery plan for the year, when COVID-19 impacted Australia and our team began working from home, the on-campus students were finalising Cluster 1 and were enrolled into our Cluster 3. We were able to implement 2 strategies to better the overall outcomes for students in regard to that delivery. The first strategy around cluster delivery was to begin delivering Cluster 3 online to our on-campus students in Rocky, Gladstone and Bundaberg. Presentations were created for delivery and we used the Zoom platform, as many of you did, to present the learning to all on-campus students at the same time. The benefits of being able to access this online platform was that one teacher could deliver the content to all students across the campuses, this giving the other teachers a chance to use their teaching time for other important tasks. The normal on-campus classes are delivered from 9 AM to 3 PM on Tuesdays. With the online Zoom classes, the learning content was delivered from 9 AM, with students then given time to conduct their own study in the middle of the class day, having access to their on-campus teachers via email, Zoom or phone. Then we reconvened at 1 PM on the class day for breakout Zoom rooms with the individual on-campus teachers just for questions and feedback around their assessment and learning. The online on-campus classes were successful, with attendance numbers being quite high. We were also able to record the class presentations and then use these as a learning resource to be added to the Moodle resources for both on-campus and online students to access. The second strategy around cluster delivery that the team implemented was to move Cluster 6 to be delivered after Cluster 3 to allow successful progression and completion of units. The Cluster 6 delivery continued online for the on-campus students. Then we returned to on-campus delivery around the end of May. Students continued working through their assessment tasks during this time, with most students still not being able to access vocational placement unless they were employed in a regulated service. Some of our students who were new in 2020 had not even found vocational placement before COVID-19 had impacted. So this was a challenge as the students were moving through their theory content of the clustered units with not having access to a vocational placement setting to gain valuable industry experience. We encourage these students to explore services they might not have explored previously, such as family daycare services. Thankful we are now gradually returning to a new normal, with most students being able to attend vocational placement. So I'm going to hand over to Loretta. Stop sharing. You there, Loretta?
Yeah. Could you share my screen, please?
Oh, sorry, Loretta. I'll reshare it for you. There you go.
Thank you, Jasmine. So I'll be talking about team collaboration and how we communicated and kept up team morale. Working remotely, communication can be lacking and the feeling of disconnection can set in fast. To prevent this, we use technology available to keep communication lines open and to support each other. This massively boosted everyone's mood, kept culture high, boosted morale, and reconnected the team. Communication is the key for remote workers. Facial expressions, body language, and tone of voice all play an important part when we communicate in person, but when separated, we miss those subtle signs. We did not only rely on emails, memos, phone, and general dial-in meetings, as this can feel isolating. There are a lot of business and non-business related side conversations with people when you are in the office setting. It was necessary to try and recreate this with our remote workforce. Morale is merely a visual communication issue. We used Teams, a chat room for the whole company, designed to replace email as our primary method of communication and sharing. It's been a great way to put those side conversations into a textual and visual environment and be able to engage socially with emojis and GIFs, which was used Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays to boost team morale and to engage socially, connect group discussions and allow for private messages to share information, files and more all in one place. Employee of the Day was created with pictures and videos we had shared of our working environment at home or personal life, and there were also sharing of team jokes. We used avatars to create visual displays and had certificates of commendation. Video conferencing Zoom provided a quick and easy way to connect visually with the other team members. The team has Monday and Friday Zoom meetings to catch up on work commitments for the week and share stories. Team meetings continued through Zoom and planning days to consistently work towards quality and to keep the team connected. Remote employees can miss out on those informal communications and they only get critical feedback about their work. Verbal praise went a long way, and our team went the extra mile to visually say thank you, think quick, create personalised videos, funny screenshots, and praising specific individuals. This showed our team that our effort and our work was noticed just by taking a few minutes out of our day to appreciate each other. Appreciation, both the in-house and remote workers in front of the whole team, helped boost morale and stay connected. As a team, we have worked well together and supported each other through this hard time. Thank you.
Thank you for that. It's always 2020. Who could have guessed what we were in for? And you guys have tackled one hell of a problem, and it's really was great to hear how you overcome that, because you did have a particular difficult problem trying to get placements out there. So thank you so much for sharing with us today, and I'm sure there'll be questions at the end, because I think that resonates with a lot of people trying to support our students who need to get that practical experience.